is new and it causes a disease called COVID-19. Now, most people will only be mildly affected by it, but it can kill. It starts by infecting our upper respiratory tracts, which are the airways from your nose to just above your vocal cords. You may develop a fever as your immune system starts to fight the virus, and a dry cough. That's one where you don't produce any phlegm. The virus can then spread to the lungs, making it harder for people to breathe, and it can cause pneumonia. In the most serious cases, people can die from the coronavirus. This is because the immune system can go into overdrive, and that can lead to organ failure. So we need to do what we can to stop this virus from spreading. As it gets into your body by breathing it in or through your eyes and mouth, the best thing to do is wash your hands regularly and properly for at least 20 seconds. Catch your colds and sneezes in a tissue and avoid touching your face.
We know the most common symptoms of coronavirus are a persistent cough and/or a fever. But what else is there to look out for? Here's Laura again.
The two main symptoms of coronavirus to look out for are a continuous dry cough and/or a fever. If you're sneezing a lot, got a runny nose or a headache, you may be ill, but you've probably not got coronavirus. So how high a fever is a coronavirus one? And what exactly is a continuous dry cough? Well, it's when you cough and there's no mucus or phlegm, basically no gooey substance in your tissue. And this is not the odd cough here and there. It has to be coughing regularly for no other reason, such as clearing your throat or smoking. So how high a fever is a coronavirus fever? Well, if you have one, you will know about it. Technically, it's a body temperature of more than 37.8 degrees Celsius, or 100 degrees Fahrenheit. But if you've not got a thermometer, basically you will feel hot, and your chest and back would be hot if someone touched you. If you have either of these symptoms, then you need to stay at home for 7 days. And if you live with other people, they need to stay at home for at least 14 days. But if your symptoms get worse or they don't go away, if you live in the UK, then you need to contact the online NHS 111 coronavirus service. If you live abroad, then call your local healthcare provider.
As you saw in Laura's report, health authorities around the world have been saying from the start of the outbreak that washing your hands is key to preventing the virus from spreading. It sounds like an easy thing to do, but there is definitely a right way and a wrong way.
Washing your hands often and for at least 20 seconds is vital in helping to stop the spread of coronavirus. Not sure how to? Well, here's how, and make sure you watch until the end when we've got a special treat for you. So first, we create a lather. In the back of my hands, in between fingers, do the ends of my fingers, my thumb as well, again my palms, my wrists, the top of my hands again, I'm going to rinse off my hands. But I'm going to use a tissue to turn off the sap to stop cross-contamination. So that's how to wash your hands properly, but now here's your surprise.
Millions of us across the world are being told to self-isolate. That essentially means shutting yourself off from contact with anyone else. It's been recommended for anyone suffering with flu-like symptoms, as well as those who are classed as at risk, such as people over 70 and those with underlying conditions like asthma and type 1 diabetes. But what does self-isolation involve? Here's the BBC's medical correspondent, Fergus Walsh.
If you're told to self-isolate, that means staying at home, not going to work, school or other public places. You shouldn't have any visitors.
If you develop symptoms, a fever or cough, then seek advice first by phone. Don't just turn up at a medical centre or hospital.
If you live with others, then you need to stay in a well-ventilated bedroom with the door shut. If you have to share a bathroom, then use it after everyone else. Don't share towels and toiletries. Your waste should be double bagged. If you test positive, it'll be separately disposed of. If you live on your own, you can order shopping online or get friends to help, but they should leave it on the doorstep. The coronavirus causes a mild illness for 4 out of 5 people. Self-isolating will help protect older people and those with underlying health problems from getting infected.
One of the main ways to stop yourself from contracting coronavirus is to not touch your face. That can sometimes be pretty difficult. Here's why.
Don't touch your face.
Contagious.
And I haven't touched my face in weeks.
Because we can't help it. It's part of our DNA. We're hardwired to do it. We know this because humans as young as fetuses in utero touch their faces. So every time you tell yourself, stop touching your face, don't touch your face, if I touch my face, I'm going to get really ill. You're telling yourself to do something that is entirely unnatural to you. When we touch our faces, what we're really doing is calming ourselves down. When we touch certain areas of our faces, what we're really doing is we're activating certain pressure points, which then activates something called the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the thing that makes us calm ourselves down internally. We see the same response in dogs and cats. Children often model the same behavior as their parents. So if our parents, when they're shocked, they touch their faces, or when they're surprised, they touch their faces, or if they're upset, they touch their faces, we're much more likely to do exactly the same thing. The irony is, at a time when it's more important than ever to not touch your face, unconsciously, your mind is constantly moving to a place where it can better protect you. By doing the things that it knows will soothe you, and so your unconscious mind will prompt your hands to go straight to your face. Whilst it's almost impossible to totally stop touching your face, a key way that you can go about making it easier would be to take out the habits which lead you to do it. So that might mean wearing glasses instead of contact lenses. It might mean wearing less makeup so you don't have to top it up throughout the day. It might also mean creating habits around how you use your hands. So rather than perhaps when you're always moving around and having your hands like this and making it so easy for them to land on your face, making an effort to cross your hands and put them on your lap. Then when the urge comes to pick your hands up and touch your face, you'll be more aware of what you're doing and you'll be quicker to catch yourself. I cleaned my hands before I touched my face.
Next, one of the common images from this pandemic is people wearing masks on public transport to some of the world's most famous places like St Mark's Square. But how effective are masks in stopping the spread?
One of the reasons that people wear masks is they think that it's going to protect them from virus. But the virus isn't floating around in the air, so it's not protecting me against anything because it's not there. It's probably going to be on my hand because I've shaken hands with someone who's got the virus and I have transmitted it. I have carried the virus to my face. If you're in an environment where everybody else is wearing a face mask and you're not, then it may make you feel vulnerable because you feel like you don't have the protection everyone else does. But logically, if you're not close to people, they're not coughing and sneezing on you, then a face mask isn't necessary. The virus enters the body through mucous membranes. We mean the eyes, the nose, the mouth, and it transmits from person to person, generally by us touching our eyes, nose or mouth, or if we're inhaling droplets directly from someone who is sneezing or coughing. The best way for the general public to protect itself against coronavirus and other respiratory viruses is really careful hand hygiene, so that's really washing your hands with either soap and water or alcohol gel if soap and water is not available, especially when you think that you've been exposed. So if you've been out in public places and touching kind of surfaces that other people might have touched, that really is the best way. And bringing attention to, am I touching my face? One of the problems if lots of people who don't need face masks are using face masks or stockpiling them, it means that there aren't enough face masks available where they're really needed for people like healthcare workers who are on the front line and dealing with suspect or confirmed coronavirus cases. The vast majority of people are not susceptible to getting a severe infection. For most people, it will be a mild illness, a bit like having a cold or a cough or the flu. It's the older people with comorbidities who are at risk, so you don't need to go and panic buy face masks.
Throughout the week on BBC News, we've been trying to answer as many of your questions as possible, and there are so many. In a moment, we'll hear from Dr. Rebecca Cooper, a public health consultant in the UK working on the coronavirus outbreak internationally. But first, here's Dr. Jeremy Oliver. He's a clinical psychologist with an expertise in well-being, explaining how people can manage their mental health during this crisis.
Anxiety is completely understandable. What I would say is anxiety is generally felt both in the head and also in the body as well. And so you are churning questions over and over again in your mind, wanting to get answers. Yeah. And that's exhausting. It's telling your body to be on alert all the time. So where possible, try and have a section of the day where you try to answer the questions that you've got, look online, watch programs like this, but also give yourself a break. Recognise that there are some questions you won't be able to answer. Like a key question might be, am I going to get the virus? No epidemiologist can tell you. You can watch red dots on a map, but that's not going to tell you whether you get the virus. The question you can answer, so try and change it to a practical question: what can I do to help myself stop getting the virus? Or what can I do to help stop other people getting it? And there is plenty of information out there about that.
Okay, well, let's crack through some, because there are so many, as I said. So this is from somebody who doesn't leave their name. I run a large retail shop. 2 staff have been isolated for coronavirus, as they have all the symptoms. We had worked in store with these people for 2 to 3 days while off colour, but not realising it was the start of the virus and before being isolated. Should we now be isolating all staff and those who volunteered for 14 days for all who came into contact with them?
I think in terms of what you should do with the staff, if there are staff that have demonstrated symptoms, if you have worked in close contact with those staff, you should now think about isolating yourself. But obviously, I understand about businesses, it is tricky, but I think for the public health, we need to be really aware that actually we're trying to minimise the spread of that infection now, and that if staff have shown symptoms, then we should think about isolating now.
Nicholas says, I am a single parent. I lost my husband 18 months ago to cancer. I've got twin girls, aged 7, who are scared to death. If I catch this virus, what will happen to them? Who will look after them if I'm poorly, they think. I already take 2 immune suppressant drugs for arthritis and have a poor resistance to chest infections every year. How can I self-isolate and look after my kids too if I get sick? The grandparents are in the at-risk age category, and my mum just had a stroke a few weeks ago. I will really struggle if I get sick and I have to go into hospital. What happens to the kids if so many people are in self-isolation? That is a message that is representative of quite a few messages that are coming in. Single parents, that single parent with a health issue, and understandably really stressed and worried.
Absolutely. So I think, as you say, Victoria, that is something that's going to affect a lot of people. What we're doing locally is that we are, and I'm sure it's happening around the country, we're setting up community groups. So we're aware that there are vulnerable people in our community, and we are starting to reach out and saying, look, if you need help, contact us. As a local Labour councillor, I can speak to constituents and get in touch with the council and try and arrange or help to arrange appropriate help. So if there are community groups in your area, I would encourage you to get involved with them. Look up who your local councillor is, get in touch with us. We are there to represent you and to speak to different services and to try and help you as best you can. So you're not alone. I totally understand that you might feel that you are, but you really aren't. At this time, I think communities will step up. And as a local councillor, I can say that we're there to help and advocate for you as well.
For somebody who has OCD, this is really, really alarming. People with OCD may have various different sorts of obsessions, and the fear of contamination is one of the main ones, but also other obsessions may be around order or counting. For those people who've been through treatment, their psychological treatment for OCD will be teaching them that the environment in the world is not the feared place that they think it is. So for some people, it will potentially undermine the treatment. It will make people think that they were right all along and that they were right to be fearful. A core feature of OCD is if somebody feels that their compulsive act hasn't been done properly, they often then feel compelled to redo it, to reassure themselves that they have done the compulsion properly. So for hand washing, that can sometimes be what motivates people to keep on washing their hands, because they will think, oh, I'm not sure that I washed the base of my thumb properly, I'm going to have to repeat that. And then they may start to fixate on, oh, I didn't count that time, so maybe I didn't wash it for 20 seconds that time. And that may then lead to a repeated chain of hand washing. Being told to self-isolate could cause some concern, because it could make the person think that this is a serious situation and I was right to fear this. It may also bring about some relief, because for somebody who is anxious, they might find it difficult to leave the house anyway, but they also may have avoided in the past going out because they fear that they cannot control the environment outside the house. I think that some positive things that people can do so they don't make their condition worse is staying in touch with people. If they are self-isolating, make sure that there is still phone contact. Make sure that there is contact via a video messaging platform so that they stay connected to people. Make sure that they do things that are distracting. So things they might enjoy doing, jobs around the house which might distract them from these thoughts. That's another key message. And the third thing is to make sure that you follow the advice, but don't upscale and excessively hand wash and excessively clean, because that is going to make the situation worse. It would only usually be if somebody had a predisposition to OCD. So of course there is the risk that in this outbreak that people could become very focused on something and could become very obsessed with hand washing, and that repetition and that temporary relief that brings may set off and a pattern of obsessive compulsive symptoms. So it is possible. It's not a high risk. It's not the case that the coronavirus is going to excessively increase the incidence of OCD in the country or in the world. But it is possible that for some individuals it may lead to OCD symptoms, and it may bring that diagnosis about.
Now, across the world, medical researchers are racing to find a vaccine for the virus, but it's thought that could be up to a year to 18 months away. The BBC science correspondent Richard Westcott has been given special access to a team at Cambridge University who are trying to find the key to beating the disease.
The race to find a vaccine for coronavirus didn't start in a lab. It started on a computer.
So this is the DNA of coronavirus?
Yes, it is.
Wow.
Within weeks of the outbreak, the coronavirus DNA had been read and put online for scientists across the world to access. Like many others, the Cambridge team has been using it to find out exactly what they're up against.
The sequence helps us to understand how the virus actually looks in terms of its physical properties, and that's really important because the spike protein that you see around the edge of the virus, that is what we need the antibodies to attach to prevent the virus from entering our cells.
That's interesting. So these letters give you a picture,
Absolutely.
A picture of what it looks like and how you can attack it.
Yes.
Things then move into a tightly sealed lab. They haven't got the actual virus in here yet. Their early tests are done on safer, man-made copies of parts of the virus.
This is a highly restricted lab. Very few people are allowed inside, and we are not allowed inside. But we are going to be able to talk to Jonathan, who's leading the research, using a bit of technology to get hold of him. Jonathan, hi, can you hear me?
Richard.
Nice to see you. Are you collaborating with other people around the world? I mean, are all, experts like you chatting online and sort of sharing ideas about what to do next?
Absolutely. This is a huge global effort. I was in Australia, in Geelong, I was in British Columbia, I've been in the US, and we're having teleconferences daily on the state of the situation, the variability, the transmission dynamics, and really trying to get as much information from the epidemic that will help us develop the very best vaccine as quickly as possible.
Have you ever known anything like this in your career, in terms of the speed it's happened?
No, this is really, really unique. It certainly has spread globally very, very quickly, and it's caught everybody off guard.
They've already begun testing possible coronavirus vaccines on animals. But to be sure it's safe and effective, it could be next summer before a human version is finally approved.
Richard Westcott on the race to find a vaccine for this virus. And while the number of people who've died from the virus continues to rise, at the same time, tens of thousands of people are recovering, including Julie from Singapore, who told the BBC her story about her isolation and recovery.
I didn't have anything, not even a sniffle or cough. However, on the 7th February, really early in the morning, like 3 o'clock in the morning, I woke up and the room was spinning.
Hello， 姐妹们，大家好！我现在在医院跟你们一起敬拜，也在等待，很期待牧师的分享。
Isolation is basically 4 walls with a door. I got my food through a secure hatch. My medication, my change of clothing, my towel. Yes, you have the phone. You can text someone, you may have a video call, but just being completely no human interaction, I almost felt like I wanted to go knock on the wall and just talk to the other patient next door, just have some conversation with a human being. When I was going through the critical stage, one of the things that I encountered was really breathing. It was just so laborious trying to get from my bed to the bathroom, which was like, I don't know, 5 meters away, just walking to the bathroom, and it was just challenging.
Finally, around the world, despite the devastating impact the virus is having on tens of millions of us, many are coming together in acts of solidarity. Here are just a few examples.